This is a different league. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios, listening on TuneIn. Big 12 Radio is brought to you, the full-time fan, by our friends at Modelo. And our game of the week this week on Big 12 Radio is Kansas at Iowa State, a Valentine's Day special at 1 Eastern, noon Central Time. Speaking of Iowa State, they fell last night at TCU. As we take a look at what happened last night on the men's side, Houston went on the road and handled business on a stand-on-business Wednesday. Day at the office for the Cougars, 66-52. Emmanuel Sharp became the school's all-time career leader in made threes. He had 8 last night, a career high. TCU takes down Iowa State in Fort Worth. BYU ends their slide. They go on the road and beat Baylor 99-94. And Arizona State hangs on against Oklahoma State in Tempe, 85-76. What was the biggest surprise to you? What was the most shocking outcome last night on the men's side?
I mean, I think there's two significant stories here, and that it's really about the middle of the Big 12. Number one, TCU like, hey, remember us? Remember us? TCU has 4 quad one wins, including Wisconsin and Florida. And, you know, big picture Iowa State, I think they've got some struggles despite being top 10 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. Although I think they're now outside the top 10 or maybe even 15 in Ken Palm. And Oklahoma State, what a disappointing loss for Oklahoma State. I mean, we basically looked at the rest of their schedule and saw the wins and saw the losses, and then they go and lay an egg against an Arizona State team that's at the bottom of the league. I mean, that's a bad loss for a team that was trending up in the NCAA tournament ranks. Steve Lutz has won 1 Big 12 road game in 2 seasons so far. And that obviously came recently, but that's bad. Mm-hmm. And especially, what did Oklahoma State lose to Arizona on Saturday by?
30-something.
37 points. So, bless you. You lose by 37 points and then rebound with a midweek game like this. Yeah, that was brutal. That's a bad loss for Oklahoma State. But Iowa State continues to struggle on the road. You know, look, I think Iowa State offensively, either Big 12 defenses have figured some things out, but they go into lulls. And, I mean, you hold a Big 12 team to 62 points, you should win that game. Iowa State led 55-50 with 2:14 left and then did not score again. TCU closed on a 12-0 run, flipped the entire game. Jaden Pierre hit a pull-up 3 with 48 seconds left that put TCU ahead for good. And, you know, it was basically a steal at half court on Tamin Lipsey after the 3 that essentially put the game to bed. 17 turnovers for the Iowa State Cyclones. Again, like, they hit these lulls on offense, and they just can't score. And, I mean, I think, like, they've got a small ball lineup where Jefferson plays the 5. The problem is they can't play that the entire game because then you're tiring Jefferson too much. And they just don't have enough for big ball lineups with their bigs. Like, they struggle too much with true 5s. Also, Iowa State is shooting 68% from the free throw line on the season as a team. Mm-hmm. That's bad. Mm-hmm. That's real bad.
They have some holes offensively.
They are a really good elite defensive team that I think of late is showing some major holes on offense. This is a significant loss because last time I checked, NCAA tournament games are not played at Hilton Coliseum.
Right.
And they struggled to win on the road, and you know they're going to have 2 big home games here, Saturday against Kansas and then Monday, I believe it's home against Houston, right? The big Monday Iowa State-Houston game is at Iowa State, right?
Let's see, Iowa State has, Kansas and Houston coming up next, back-to-back at home.
Both at home.
And then at BYU. So Hilton Magic will need to be alive and well. I'm with you on Iowa State and the lulls that they have, the droughts offensively. Evan Miyakawa does a great job of tracking kill shots, which is a run of 10-0 or more. Well, TCU had 2 in this game. Iowa State was on the wrong side of that and have been at significant junctures this season, a couple of times in Lawrence at KU when they got blown out. Now, Iowa State gets a lot of 10-0 runs, but on the flip side, they surrender a lot of 10-0 runs. They're very streaky. And they had this game in control right before halftime. TCU went on a 10-0 run to get it down to 1. And then scoring the final 12 points unanswered is just there's no excuse for that if you're Iowa State and you're a top 10 team, top 5 team, as their resume would indicate.
Well, and I think the most confusing part is this is one of the more experienced teams in the conference. This is Taman Lipsey's been around the block. Joshua Jefferson, Milan Momcilovic, like these are not first-year guys. Nate Heisey, like these are all guys that have played together the last couple of years. So I think, when we look at this league, there's a lot of teams that are sort of rolling the ball out there and having guys figure out how to play together. Kansas is a good example of that. I mean, you got a bunch of guys that haven't played together. Iowa State has that, and yet still hits these lulls of scoring. I mean, 25 points in the second half after a 30-point first half. It's real bad.
Mm-hmm. And TCU's won back-to-back now, games in which they have closed out the opponent. They rallied down all day against Kansas State, scored the go-ahead basket at the foul line with 6.5 seconds to go, and then closing the Iowa State game on a 12-0 run. Jaden Pierre only had 9 points, but he had a huge dagger go-ahead three with 48 seconds left, as you noted. Tanner Toolson off the bench, 17 points and 9 rebounds. So TCU, have they turned a corner? Here's Jamie Dixon on the best may still be in front of the Horned Frogs.
It's, I just said we've played. I don't think any. Find someone that's played 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the year in the same year, and then we've got. I'm forgetting the lowly ranked Kansas team and the BYU team and the somebody else too. Is Florida. They're in there as well. So hey, we've lost to good teams. We haven't been perfect, but our best days are ahead of us. That's what I keep telling our guys.
Well, they're 4-6 now, James, in quad one games. 4 quad one wins usually get you in. Their worst loss is probably at Utah.
In league play outside of New Orleans to open the year.
Good point. I forgot about the New Orleans loss, which may come back to bite them even with the 4-6 quad one record. They only lost to Michigan by 4, have the wins over Florida and Wisconsin. And then I think, Jamie Dixon's right. Here's the rest of their season. At Oklahoma State on Saturday. At UCF. Okay, that's a tough one. West Virginia at home. Arizona State at home. At K-State. At Texas Tech. Cincinnati. So, they only played Texas Tech in terms of, the top teams of the Big 12. They have some tough road games. Oklahoma State, UCF, and Texas Tech are all tough. But K-State, or rather West Virginia, Arizona State, and Cincinnati at home. So I think Jamie Dixon's right. They're about to get hot just based on the rest of their schedule. Their toughest games are behind them aside from the at Texas Tech game on March 3rd.
They're such a weird team to figure out. And when you look at their body of work, maybe nobody in the Big 12 that's at least in contention for an NCAA tournament bid has as bad of losses as TCU. When you talk about New Orleans, they also lost to Notre Dame, who's 11-14 and 2-10 in the ACC. They have a loss to Utah, which is Utah's only Big 12 win. But then they also have 4 quad one wins, to your point, and they've won 4 of their last 6. So how will the NCAA selection committee look at that early season, November and December, versus what they've done as of late? And there's a massive game for them on Saturday at Oklahoma State, 11 a.m. Central Time on ESPN2.
There's just this log jam behind UCF in the Big 12 right now with Oklahoma State, Baylor, TCU, who else am I? West Virginia. It feels like West Virginia and TCU are the latest flavor of the day on this because Oklahoma State lost last night, and that's a bad loss to Arizona State, and then, and then Baylor losing as well to BYU in an opportunity that they had. We haven't touched on that game yet, but that's a game they were up by double digits, and then AJ DeBanza was fantastic, Rob Wright was fantastic in that one, where BYU closed them out, was up 15 at the end, and then Baylor made it close, but close only works in horseshoes and hand grenades.
Both teams in that Baylor-BYU game shot over 50% from the floor. A.J. DeBonsa had 36 points, but also Tunde Yesufu had 37 for Baylor, a career night for their freshman star. Rob Wright, 30 points for BYU on 12 of 21 shooting, had a career high against his former team. Here's what BYU coach Kevin Young said about BYU ending that 4-game skid on the road.
Never know in the Big 12. Every game's hard, every team has good players and good coaching and good atmosphere. So I'll have to look at the film to see exactly what happened. I thought they made a little run. I thought, Richie probably doesn't pull the trigger on that last three in the corner, and we win by 10 or 12 and the game's over, right? So give them credit for extending the game at the end. But I love the fact that, our guys showed resiliency on the road when it feels, things have been tough sledding for us. And so to have that kind of poise on the road against it, and unfortunately for us, it feels like every night someone's having a career night. But Yesufu was incredible. He got going. And like I said, for our guys to be able to withstand that and just have the determination to just flat out get a win, I'm proud of them for that.
BYU opened the second half on a 15-2 run. They led 58-50, actually stretched their lead to as many as 17 in the second half after a couple of Baylor turnovers that led to threes on the other end. But then Baylor rallied. They had it down to 4 with about a minute to go, and it looked like maybe they could get that thing into overtime. But BYU hangs 99 on the road and picks up a quad 1 win.
Well, and that's sort of the nature of the beast for Baylor. They just can't get stops. I mean, and this is a league where you've got to have a team that can consistently get stops on the defensive end. You've got to, excuse the pun here, bear down on the defensive end and get stops. And, 99 points ain't it. Every time Baylor made a run in the second half, it was DeBansa or Rob Wright shutting the door. Every time. They had an answer every single time. And, again, I attribute that more to a porous defense than anything else. But, BYU did a good job getting to the free throw line. Rob Wright, was extremely fired up. He was booed the entire game. And these are two desperate teams. BYU was desperate to end their skid as they're free-falling. And Baylor is just trying to get a really good win here.
Ken Pom has 3 Big 12 teams in the top 10 of offensive efficiency. Okay, there's 3 Big 12 schools in the top 10 of Ken Pom's offensive efficiency. Who do you think they are?
Arizona.
And in what order? Okay, Arizona.
Baylor.
Okay.
And BYU? No, Texas Tech.
Texas Tech, okay. The 3 schools in the top 10 of Ken Pom's offensive efficiency rating are Arizona, BYU, and Houston, but not in that order. The best offensive team in the Big 12 is BYU, and they're 4th in the country in offensive efficiency rating.
Wow.
But defensively, they're 56th. My point is, if they can continue to improve on the defensive end, they've identified that opposing shooters, or lack thereof, guys that don't shoot a very high percentage, typically go off against BYU. I think it's because they're highlighting those guys and leaving them more open. If they clean things up defensively, all of a sudden they are a very, very dangerous team in the NCAA tournament.
Well, and doing a deeper dive into the top 5 of Ken Pom offensive ratings, Illinois is number 1. They're 31st in defensive rating. Alabama's number 2. They're 65th. Purdue is number 3. They're 23rd in defensive rating. BYU is 4th. They're 56th. Michigan is 5th. They're 1st in defensive rating. So the majority of the teams in the top 5, except for Michigan, are basically also bad defensive teams.
And what's that banger Ken Pom stat? I think it's like 19 of the last 20 NCAA champions have been top 20 in both.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure within the last 25 years, every team except for one has been top 10 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. The problem with that is it keeps going. So you could say, like, when the tournament's about to start, I'm only going to pick teams that are top 10 in both when the tournament starts. The problem is you might have a team that's like 15th in defensive rating, and then they're in the top 10 by the time the season ends.
Right. Yeah, okay. I see what you're saying. That's a really good point because of those tournament games.
Right. Mm-hmm. It doesn't stop at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. It's not like these are the teams that can win it. Because I remember, like, a few years back, I was like, I'm just going to pick teams that are top 10 in both. And then you look, you're like, how'd that team win it? They weren't top 10 in both. You're like, oh, well, then they ended the season that way. Got it. Okay.
That makes sense. All right, let's take a timeout. Coming up next, Mike O'Donnell, college basketball analyst for CBS and NBC Sports, joins us. We are brought to you by Modelo. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league.